for those who crave more than just reading headlines in their social media feeds.
People need to wake up.
We're today's news talk, The World Today.
Robin Tilbrook is a solicitor, leader and chairman of the English Democrats, chairman of the Workers of England Union. Robin, thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about halal and other things such as our freedom and our rights being gobbled up by digital IDs. But first of all, I was thinking about it before. We're talking about the halal killings and it's very cruel. What about pork? And the reason why I know that it's not eaten by Muslims, pork is not eaten, but are they still killed the same way as they do with the other animals?
Hello, Mike. I think not. In the UK, there are about 60 non-halal, non-religious slaughterhouses left. I think they are the ones who are dealing with pork, pig slaughter. And the thing is that if pork is used in if a pig's killed in a halal slaughterhouse, they then think that it's been defiled and they can't then use it. It's got to be religiously cleaned and all sorts of things like that. So I'm pretty sure that you'd find that the pork slaughterhouses are completely separate.
The only reason why I say that, because if there were some, then you know what they're doing is just flouting the law, is trying to save that extra penny, and don't give a rat's about the poor animal. And so that was the only reason why I thought, well, I wonder if they are doing pork, and with people's ignorance not questioning why they would do it. But if they're not doing it, then obviously,
So the law is here that all animals should be slaughtered according to humane methods, with health and safety rules applying and also hygiene rules applying. If, however, it's being said that that the animals being slaughtered for religious reasons or religious methods, then none of those are applied. So consequently, businesses have been trying to make out that they are slaughtering for religious reasons, when in fact they are slaughtering vast amounts of meat for the general population. And the law specifically says, for instance, that slaughter by halal methods by Muslims for the food for Muslims is an exemption to the general rule, and that's what's being abused.
Now, your group, which includes Catherine, has done some great research on the halal scandal. What's come up now? What else have you found out?
Well, what we've been finding is that it is really very widespread indeed. I mean, just for a start, all the meat that comes into England from New Zealand is halal.
All of it?
All of it. All the lamb, all the beef, it's all halal. And it has a halal certification, which of course means that some halal certification agency has been paid for that certification. That is putting money into the backing of jihad in some cases, I would think.
Can I just ask you, I'm just going to butt in here, so forgive me, give me a welt across the years later. What's their laws in New Zealand with regards to halal meat? Do they have similar rules and regulations as they do in the UK?
I don't know, Mike, but I think not, because it couldn't be the case that all the meat that's being shipped to the UK is halal if there were similar rules, unless the similarity is that whatever the rule is not being applied. Because basically the problem with what's going on in this country is not only the cruelty, which is over a huge number of animals. I read an estimate that that might be something in the order of 750 million animals every year that are now being slaughtered by cruel methods.
These are just torturous institutions.
Yeah.
I mean, we have I mean, even though it's terrible for the poor animal, but we have a responsibility as humans.
I think we do. I mean, it's really poor. Um, we're also putting money into the national food policy.
Robin, we have a problem. Remember the last time when we had the UK government, we blamed them. You've done the same thing. Last time we think we're talking about something, and you've. So hopefully, we're just going to put 10 cents in or a penny in there. It's in. We'll try it again. And you were saying, sir,
Can you hear me now?
we can.
Oh, good. Yes, I think what I was saying is that it's not only horrific for the animals, as you're saying,
Mm,
but it is putting money into the hands of unscrupulous businessmen who are basically um, trying to abuse the system. They've been putting out of business those slaughterhouses which have been obeying the law, and what we've got is yet another example of two-tier policing. And so what we're going to try and do, and I'm confident we'll succeed in making a big difference. Is what we're going to try and do is apply uh, to the High Court for orders that the local authorities, inspectorate, do actually obey the law. And there's also another point, which is that the labelling of food is not being properly carried out. So we've discovered instances of supermarkets claiming that the animals lived a life on the sort of sunny uplands, and had a great life. What they don't mention is that the animal has been had its throat cut and left to bleed out whilst conscious in many cases.
Are you? You must be now starting to get a bit of heat, because we're talking about a lot of money here and a lot of unscrupulous people, and not all of the institutions is unscrupulous, but a great deal is. Do you, for example, do you and Catherine at times start to now become aware that you could very well become Sunday night roast?
Well, that's possibly true, but I doubt it, Mike, because at the moment we're at a point where we're raising awareness, we're raising funds to bring the case, and so we're probably not seen as a great threat. But you might be right that when we do start winning these cases, we might then be seen as a threat. But of course, by then, from the point of view of the unscrupulous, it'll probably be too late, because once we've started to win cases, the inspectorate, both of the slaughterhouses and of food labelling, will be alerted to the fact that they've got to do their job the law actually says they should do it.
But again, I don't want to harp on a point, but we're talking about a lot of money, and money. If there's a lot of money involved here, I'd just be a little bit wary. That's all. Just I know you got a couple of bazookas in your room, but you but you just I mean just and being sensible here too. You are threatening the livelihood of these nefarious creatures, and secondly, the fraud that is being committed and not acted on by government, they're not going to be very happy either. Tell us about the fraud bit, because at this stage they're getting away with, with murder.
Yes, so I think you're right to call it fraud, really, because what they're what's being allowed is something that is not permitted by the law at all. So we're calling it religious slaughter, but it's not really. It's just they're using the religious exemption in order to get
Mm,
the ability to kill animals in a way that is much cheaper than if they actually applied the proper rules.
mm,
Um, and of course, those businessmen who've been doing this and profiting by it have in fact made huge amounts of money. One of them has gone from very little money to being more than a billionaire as a result.
Incredible. What about the consumer groups? Of course, they'll be right there. Can't eat those, can't kill those poor animals that way. Have they been silent, or are they a bit noisy at the moment? Are they saying something?
Well, Mike, no, of course not. We do here live in a country where all the child protection groups and people that mouth off about domestic violence and so on were absolutely silent about the gang rape of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of white English girls by Pakistani Muslim child rape gangs who were then pimping them and making huge amounts of money. We're in a country that is quite systemically corrupt, I'd say.
Yep, I see that. Just as I reach across my desk, it's just speaking about that. The grooming gangs see that Shabana Mahmood, magnificent person. She got into Tommy Robinson, said that he was racist, and that the ones who marched to the heirs to the skinheads and pecky bashers of old, for those that are involved in grooming, I think a good bashing wouldn't go astray at all. This is my own, in fact, a little more than that. Back to the cruelty of Halal. What about reform and Nigel? I'm sorry, it's terrible. I don't think he's done much, but has he said anything? Have they done anything?
I don't think they have said or done anything, and certainly we haven't found any support from them at all. No.
Wow, that's because I think he's put his hand up for the next job of a celebrity game show host. But anyway, what about the animal? What about the animal welfare groups? Surely there's someone out there going to put their hand up.
No, I mean what we wind up with here is that if you do anything like this, people start talking about community cohesion,
Can you explain
which is
what that means?
what it means is that our proper rules oughtn't to be applied if there's any issue of community cohesion, and of course that was the reason why, or the excuse that's now given as to why the child rape gangs weren't being properly policed. There was no attempt to break them up. It turns out that many local authorities were being supportive. The media was silent. It's all community cohesion.
And I've just got this feeling it's something that people don't want to talk about. And I think I haven't seen a whole lot. I mean, I scour the the socials and watch the news, and I haven't seen a whole lot of late. Have they gone quiet, or are they quieter than normal? I mean, have you had your door bashed down from the media wanting to do an interview with you about this terrible torture called Halal?
No, Mike. The media here have changed their definition of impartiality. Impartiality now means that you are not allowed to, or shouldn't, give any publicity to any voices that are not fully in the multicultural DEI line of thinking. So if you're saying or doing anything that's in any way challenging to the establishment, you're not going to get much in the way of coverage.
So here's the thing. This is a bit off track here. It doesn't look good for humanity, does it? Because we have these poor animals. Besides the fraud and the illegal activities, these animals are being tortured. It's a bit like if you think at the end of our life, we're in the old age home, and they said, well, you're about to die, so we're going to cut your throat and you'll go off to the land of whatever. It's a very cruel thing, and you would think humanity, you think people would think about that poor animal, the torture that has been imposed on that animal, and not to acknowledge it. It does say a lot about society, doesn't it?
I think it does, Mike. I think that what we were talking about publicity is important here, because I think there's lots of people in England still who are very much animal lovers. They also, the various pro-animal charities. There's many of them, and they have quite large resources and lots of donors. And of course, most of these people who are doing this are probably unaware of the fact that when they go to the supermarket and buy something that says it's the animals lived a lovely life, they're unaware that it's been killed in this horrible manner. And many of them probably wouldn't want to be aware of it, quite honestly.
But they're just putting their fingers in their ears. But the media, who should be, and the government, and the constabulary, and so forth, the list goes on. The churches, they should be putting their hand up and saying, "This is what's happening. We need to stop it." It's a bit like in Truan, when those poor kiddies, and again, it just stopped the investigation into it. But it wasn't that old that they threw in 800 children into a septic tank. I mean, humanity, it's deplorable at the moment. Our moral compass seems to have disappeared, and our acceptance of cruelty seems to have been magnified. I mean, look at the. Is it because we have less Christianity? I mean, you're a young bloke of 32 in your time of looking at the UK. Christianity has been waning. 500 churches are now mosques. I mean, is it because of that? What's wrong with people?
So Mike, you make a very important point about Christianity. So Christianity does have clear rules in it that actually meat that's been offered to idols, which would include the religious slaughter of animals, well, particularly the halal slaughter, where the animals dedicated to Allah. That should be treated as being meat that cannot then be eaten by a Christian, according to biblical authority. But firstly, I've never come across that being mentioned at all in church. And generally speaking, in the Church of England, they don't challenge any part of the multiculturalist agenda. And quite often you wind up with shared services where you have non-Christian figures saying prayers and so on. So we have Muslims coming in to say prayers in Christian services, particularly if there's any sort of official element to it. So I mean, I'm a solicitor, so every year there's a service in Chelmsford Cathedral, near where I am, for the new start to the new justice year, and we will generally have an imam come in to say something, which we don't know exactly what prayer that is, but whatever it is, it's clearly not a Christian prayer, and so Christianity in England is now, I would say, really in quite a weak state, and it does not stand up for itself mostly, and it's basically allowing things to happen which would once have been considered to be completely and utterly unacceptable.
Interesting. I'm just thinking of that prayer because in Saudi Arabia, which is probably the centre of Islam, the last few months they have removed the heads of 19 people because of various things that, I don't see Christianity doing that. We're taught to turn the other cheek. If you're looking at the example in Saudi Arabia, they chop it off, which is not it's not no place in Western society. Truly, when look at grooming gangs, the same thing. And I'll get Mahmood will be writing to me saying I'm racist. I'm not.
So Mike, can I comment on the turning the other cheek?
Yes.
So that is something I agree with you that you often get quoted, but I don't think that that is really a fully scriptural approach to what Christianity is teaching. it's worth bearing in mind that what was being talked about was what happened if you brought a court case. And of course, in those days, if you brought a court case and the other person lost, so you've got an argument over who owns the shirt. The person um, who lost could very well wind up being enslaved. So maybe what that was really telling us was that we shouldn't be pursuing our enemies to the point of getting them enslaved. Whereas um, I think it's worth pointing out that Christ himself does actually whip the moneylenders who are in the temple personally. So he can't be it can't be said that he's promoting the idea that you should tolerate all sorts of abuses.
I actually think Western society has lost its way. I mean, it was always based on. We have there you are. See again that we have not only do we have the government trying to up, we meant to talk about Christianity. And I can see a couple of rabid bishops going nuts. It's Nigel with his game show. It's terrible. Let's keep trying. That was, and I wasn't too sure whether it was maybe something you had last night, but it was pretty wild, whatever it was. I'm under your control. Now let's talk about, see if they can shut us up. Oh, that's right. Western society, I think it's disassembling because Christianity, it showed us the moral compass, and I think less of that, and we start walking around like bumping into walls and having our heads chopped off. The judicial review, how much do you need and how's that going?
To challenge the slaughterhouse inspectors.
Yes.
Yes. So we've raised over £25,000, and we have been doing a lot of research as to which slaughterhouses are breaking the rules, and we will be selecting a local authority as a suitable first example and test case very shortly. And the first step is we have to write a protocol letter before action to the local authority to basically tell them what they're doing wrong and require them to sort themselves out and confirm they're going to. That will happen within weeks.
Fantastic. Just one more thing I meant to ask you about, because they're always seem to be fighting. Sometimes a good fight, but I have doubts about their sincerity. GB News, they would have been covering the Halal fiasco.
No, they have not.
There's
But
no one left. There's no one left.
yeah, I think GB News might do so once it gets started. So the GB News, for instance, have been good at covering what's been going on with the child rape gangs, and Charlie Peters in particular has been very effective about that.
Excellent. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Now, back to the other terrible things, the digital ID. Is this the same as the Brit card?
Yeah, so basically, our establishment politicians have trotted out this idea of having digital ID on several occasions. It's always for some sort of different reason or other. So the latest example of that is Keir Starmer trying to make out that the whole of the population being required to have the authorities able to access all your medical records, your driving records, your work records, and so on one digital ID. That is somehow going to restrict illegal and mass immigration and illegal working. Well, of course, that's such utter nonsense and incoherent that even when he was asked by Laura Kuenssberg of the BBC to explain how it was going to help, he couldn't come up with a sensible explanation at all. So, it's clearly something that those in the higher reaches of the state have decided they want to do, and every now and again they trot it out. with some excuse or other why it should happen. The previous major attempt was part of the reaction to COVID. We were supposed to have COVID ID cards, which is going to allow people to check that we had been compliant with having jabs and all the rest of it. That's the extent to which these cards will restrict our liberty. That state officials and not just the police, but local authority officials and so on, will be able to check exactly what you've been doing about almost anything, and you're not a free person when the state can do that to you.
No, I think it's terrible. But they don't need a card to see whether you've been checked for the COVID jab. I mean, if you haven't got head shakes, wobbles, cancer, myocarditis, or if you're dead, then obviously you have had the shot. And if you're living and dancing and enjoying a good whiskey every now and then, maybe too many, then you haven't had the jab. And that's probably the way to do it. You don't need the digital ID to do that. But you are right, though. I think it's going to come in. Do you think they will have the exemptions for those that are privileged, as they did with referring to government here and bureaucrats, as they did with COVID? Do you think there will be exceptions made to those that are more elitist than we are?
I'm not sure whether there will be exceptions, but there might well be. Certainly, their ID cards, if they have them, will give them special access to things, and probably enable them to tell the rest of us what we're supposed to be doing, and certainly it will enable them, I think, to see what our records say, and that's a worrying point. That if you're well, I mean, we're already at a point where the police records, the police keep, are not just criminal convictions. If they've got suspicion that we're political activists or saying things that the establishment don't like, that can wind up on your record.
Well, yours are stored in a library. It's the entire library.
It probably is, but I haven't done I haven't done the check recently. But this is what this whole business about police turning up on somebody's door, saying that there's been a non-crime hate incident, which is about.
But about to become a crime.
So they turn up and they say they want to check your thinking because you tweeted something on X, which is it shows how far into overreach the state here is prepared to go. And another thing that shows that is the fact that under the so-called Terrorism Act, there's now something in the order of 15,000 arrests a year.
Fantastic.
Which and many of those people are people who are being arrested because they don't immediately comply with a police officer's demand to provide access codes to their computer or telephone.
When they come to a house, do they still go, hello, hello, hello? Or are they a bit more gruff now, are they?
Well, they certainly don't go hello, 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 but they do. They're mostly still knocking on the door, but obviously, if they think they can get away with it, they might be knocking the door down with one of these metal clubs that they have. We don't live in happy times, Mike.
We don't, but that's why God made whiskey. Look, it's a pleasure. By the way, just before we finish, Tony Blair, I mean, obviously you are just thinking he's a magnificent person, as we all do. His role with the digital ID, and also I see that he wants to be first governor of Gaza. I mean, I thought Tony Blair had camped under a rock, was never to come out again.
Far from it. He's been popping up every now and again to encourage something or other that anybody that cares for liberty wouldn't be keen on. I wonder if Gaza might be one ambition too far for him, because I would have thought that that would be a position you were mentioning earlier about threats to life. Well, I would have thought being the governor of Gaza
Not a long-term job, is it?
might be a job that causes us to see the back of him.
Oh dear, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And so say all of us. Robin, fantastic chatting. If they want to, at this stage, by the way, Jen has put in an enormous amount of work and been, chewing the fingernails to the knuckles, because I've made light of some of these things. I do await a beheading for me. But some great questions there too, a lot of research. If somebody wants to find out more, one, about how they can help you with your court cases, or secondly, become involved in your political parties, or just get to know you or support you, how do they do that?
Yes, so if they want to find me on Twitter, I'm on at Robin Tilbrook, and that does have the crowdfunding appeal. And also, if they want the English Democrats, that's englishdemocrats.party. If they want the Workers of England Union, that's workersofengland.co.uk.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. And we'll talk again next week. This is The World Today.